Welcome to the second session of the Black Brilliance Thriving as an Entrepreneur. I would love to take some time to thank Shalonda Hicks, Committee Chair of the Economic and Development Committee, for her outstanding leadership in organizing this. So give her a round of applause. Just kind of applaud her and what she's doing in making this all come to fruition. It's great, and I love it. Thanks to our fearless leader, Carletta Hurt, who's, of course, leading us, the DC chapter of the organization. This is amazing. We're doing some really great things, and I'm excited to be a part of it. I'm new, and I'm excited to share my story and my journey. And more than that, I'm excited to share this panel with the two outstanding, amazing people. We've got Tanya Hutchins. Did it? All right, good. And we've got Janaba Cisse. All right, so Tanya Hutchins, I'm going to introduce her really quickly. We got Tanya Hutchins, owner of Hutch House LLC. Tanya Hutchins is a freelance multimedia storyteller who specializes in short marketing videos for social media. She has 30 years of experience as a journalist and is a member of the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Arts, long form for SAG-AFTRA, a labor union for performers. That's amazing. From 2011 to 2022, she worked as a communication representative for the Machinist Union headquarters in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. She started Hutch House LLC last year. Let's welcome Miss Tanya Hutchins.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Glad to have you, Tanya. We're excited to hear from you. Also, on my right, I don't know what the layout is, we have the wonderful Janaba Cisse, CEO of Ebroso. Did I pronounce it right? Consulting.
Yeah.
Awesome. And Ms. Cisse is passionate about tackling complex societal problems and creating market-driven solutions with innovative and sustainable business models. Janaba's professional career spans over 2 decades, including 20 years as an accomplished banking, management, and leadership and financial professional. She has a proven track record in leadership, change management, retail and consumer banking, commercial lending, and business development in the banking finance industry and higher education. Wow. All right. Janaba has won numerous prestigious awards for her outstanding work, including BB&T's Top Sterling Performer Award, M&T Bank's Presidential Council Award, and Bowie State University Outstanding Adjunct Award. After 2 decades of the financial field, leading teams and working for Fortune 500 companies, she founded Ebroso Consulting, a management consulting firm that offers business problem solving, strategic entrepreneurship, and financial consulting, leadership and coaching, sales and marketing services via one-on-ones, classrooms, face-to-face webinars, and keynote speaking. She's an alum of Robert H. Smith of Business at the University of Maryland, College Park, and served as adjunct professor of entrepreneurship and leadership development at Bowie State University in Bowie, Maryland, and entrepreneurship, innovation, and strategy professor at the Robert H. Smith School of Business. Janaba now serves as National Science Foundation, I-Corps instructor, and program manager of Maryland Innovation Extension at Maryland Technology Enterprise Institute, MTech, in College Park, Maryland, and at the University of Maryland's A. James Clark School of Engineering. In her role, she supports faculty, students, alumni, and greater underrepresented communities in Maryland to commercialize their invention or innovation and bring it to the market. We've got a banging panel, if that didn't say it enough. Then we've got myself. I am Derek Harrison. I am owner of Olam Sites. We're a web design agency founded and started in Atlanta, Georgia. And of course, we're spreading kind of worldwide now. And my background was in business and marketing. Started off at ECU, did my undergrad and my MBA there, then ventured out and actually got into the film and TV industry. So I did a little bit of what Tanya's doing, but not quite on her level at all. So that was a fun journey. And after I got tired of that for myself, and I was like, you know what? This is some hard work. I need to do something that isn't as hard. So I started freelancing and getting into marketing and building websites. And from there in 2018, launched the agency Olam Sites. And where now we focus primarily on web design and branding for small businesses throughout the US. That's what we do. That's us. This is a wonderful panel. Again, a round of applause for this wonderful panel. Tanya, Janaba, thanks for coming. And we're going to dive right in. First off, wonderful bios, some amazing experience, and lots of, I know, knowledge and expertise coming from you both. So I would love to dive in and start and lean really into the title of today's webinar and lean into the conversation about thriving, because, you know, we're talking about thriving as an entrepreneur. That's part of the title in the webinar. How do each of you define thriving?
I'll start off, I guess. Thriving to me is succeeding in a way that enables you to live your dreams, fulfill your vision and conduct your business as you see fit. So really living the life that you want to live. A lot of us start our businesses because we want to be our own boss. That's the thing that starts it. I don't always measure it just in finances. My LLC has only been around for a year, but I have 30 years experience. So I may not be hitting the target that I want this year, but I'm well aware that there are really fulfilling years and there may be slow years. So for me, I feel like I'm thriving because I'm doing what I love.
I love it. I love it. What about you, Jonathan?
Yes, very similar to Tanya, purpose-driven, right? Looking at all of us reading the bios here, and I think many people also in the audience can also relate, right? How we have progressive career progression for different things that we have done, right? But looking at it in a point that always when you come back, there's one common denominator that you will always stop everything else and gets it done, right? What is that? For me, that becomes that consulting to support someone to get to the next level, right? For that bigger purpose, whether that's on a one-on-one or whether that is someone helping someone to create a business model or my own business model that I created. If you look at my logo, it's like a tying the knots, right? Tying the loose ends. So wherever that fits. So for me, and it's a little bit related to what Tanya said, not necessarily all in the financial outcomes, because that would always come, right? When the business model that you design hit the targeted place that looks like. So for me, where that target takes me, I see myself in classrooms. I see myself in conferences. I see myself here. That's why when I was asked to come in the panel, I didn't even think about it twice. I'm like, yeah, here I am. So that's what thriving looks like, especially in these days after COVID, where we all have realized that it's not about that sitting in that office or having that $200,000-$300,000 paycheck, but what keeps you sane. So for me, that's what I would say that thrive looks like.
And you know what I loved about what both of you said is that, or what I took away from it is that there was no textbook definition. There was nothing that we can go back to business school and say, here's what thriving is. Instead, it sounded like it's something that we define for ourselves. And I think that's a piece that a lot of people overlook and they miss. And they kind of think they're following someone else's standard or someone else's definition of what thriving or success. You can even kind of synonymous there. But I think that's a great point. That's my takeaway from what you both said. And that's kind of where I feel, and the way I look at it also is that, one, we define it for ourselves. And for me, it's always about am I able to afford my lifestyle? And I look at two resources when I'm thinking about affording. I'm looking at time and I'm looking at money. So of course, money is always part of it, but the piece I think a lot of people miss is the time piece. Because whatever your lifestyle is, whatever it is you like to do, you want in entrepreneurship, I mean, it's some hard work. And you both know that. So if I'm going to drill in and put all this effort out on the line, for me, it's important that it's supporting and creating a lifestyle that I actually enjoy. Or, for me, it's like, well, why am I doing it then? Otherwise. So I love that what you said. And I kind of, again, resonate with the piece of let's define it. What does that look like for me? And it's different for all of us, all three of us. We had a different answer. But what was, to me, the common piece was that we did define it for ourselves. I love that.
And it's a feeling too.
Yeah.
Do you feel good about your work? Do you feel good about what you're doing?
Yeah. And okay, now to that point though, would you say, do you feel that feel good feeling? Is that a seasonal thing? Is it a day-to-day thing? Or, how is that for you in your experience?
I think it can be day to day, depending on our successes, depending on what we're doing. When I was working full time at the beginning of last year, I knew on certain days, if I was shooting videos, I was in a really good mood. Yeah. But on the days where I had to do social media all day long, social media management, wasn't as crazy about that,
Right.
I felt the difference in how I felt. So I knew when it came time for me to start my own business, I was definitely going to go for the aspects where I would feel good in the middle of the day, at the end of the day.
There you go. That's great. I mean, that's a high level of self-awareness. Anything for you, Miss C, say on that?
Sure. I just want to add a little bit. I'm going to step over here where you say what success looks like. I have that
Okay.
on the so because
Nice.
it's different from everybody, right? Let them define it and we walk around it. But yeah, for me, I think I used to make the goals very, very higher, thriving very higher. And what ends up happening is, even though, I consider myself as a high achiever, even though if I don't make it, it's still acceptable in the environment that I am in. But me as a person, that was a struggle for me. So I had to come in terms with myself to kind of define success in smaller goals, right? So for instance, a day like today, if I have, reached out to all stakeholders that I'm meeting tomorrow, share the agenda we're going to be meeting with them, and everyone expects what they're going to be seeing at those two major meetings. For me today, I define that as a success. So it will be much easier for me sitting here, be smiling, as opposed to if I make it a whole lot bigger than, oh, okay, when I send them the agenda, I wanted them to add more than what I added to it. That would have been a whole lot more, come up with a disappointment. So I try to manage it that way for my sanity. And it has been very, very helpful. But like Tanya mentioned, some days it's not going to be always like that, right? A rainy day, oh my goodness, how do I take that out? Even though it has nothing to do with my the business goals or things like that, but it can affect my own way of how I feel thriving. So I manage this to see how I can balance those. But it's it's always not 100%, but try to take it as it goes.
I love that. And so what I heard from that was, it sounds like you're saying what you do is sometimes goals can be sometimes too ambitious. At least the superseding goal, like if this is my goal for the year, well, that sounds ambitious. I can't do that tomorrow, right? So what you found works really well for you is taking those goals, those ambitious goals, and scaling them down into digestible stepping stone goals. Is that right?
Yes. Daily sanity. Yep. To keep my sanity going.
I love that. That's a great tip. And I think as entrepreneurs, that's definitely a piece, because that, again, achieving those small goals feels just as good, I think, as achieving the big goals, because you're achieving something and you're like, okay, I'm going in a forward direction. So I like that. That's a really great tip. I love that.
Thank you.
Now, and then anything else on that, Tanya, on thriving? Awesome. Okay.
That sounds great. Love it.
Yes, I love this conversation. So this next piece I think I want to ask, of course, this is a lot of the question everyone wants to know when you're speaking with an entrepreneur. Why did you start your own business?
Jana, you want to go first?
Yeah, so I can go. So thank you. What would I say? I guess this is very, very relatable to the NBA, the NBA world, right? So when I had my bachelor's degree some years ago, then I'm in corporate for a while. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am hitting all these goals, but something is really missing. I don't know what it is. Something is really missing. And then at that time, being an executive at my financial role, the only easier way I could probably looking to do my MBA was either do a part-time MBA or looking to doing the executive MBA. The full-time MBA was not an option for me, being a mother and all of that. So with that said, I went in to do my enroll to get my executive MBA at the Smith School of Business. I know this is kind of like a selling moment for them, but 3 key things came on, right? Executive coaching, entrepreneurship, and or business problem solving. By the time I was exposed to each of those 3, even though the top thing in my mind was finishing my MBA, was to at least go back to the corporate and get higher up in those regionals, but it kind of disrupted that. Doing business problem solving really, really get me like, oh my goodness, I can solve any problem within any other organization or with any small business. So with some of those tools that I learned with entrepreneurship gave me that confidence right after graduation in 2017. Of course, you just don't drop everything you have and live like that. I had some businesses that I know because I spent a lot of time with doing one-on-one consulting. I knew I can start off with some of these businesses at the beginning. So at least that's what got me there. But I do know that before getting into the MBA, I knew I was ready for something else.
Gotcha. So it's interesting. So you started your journey, your MBA journey, with one end goal in mind, and then your talents kind of came to the surface and kind of redirected you in another direction, right?
Yes.
Nice. I love it. What about you, Miss Hutchins?
Well, what I do with my career, pretty much, I have like two sides of it. So I have an on-camera side where it may be hosting corporate videos and training tapes, or acting in those videos, or when movies or television shows come to town. But then on the off-camera side, I have photography and videography and editing. I may shoot Instagram reels for small businesses. So when I was putting together my LLC, all of that seemed like so much to me. I wanted to narrow it down. And I decided to have the LLC, Hutch House, cover everything that was off camera. So only the videography, the photography, the social media posting with the Instagram reels. And that, for me, I started actually because of my liability. I didn't want to be liable personally. And I was not a business major. I was a broadcast journalism major, television, radio, communication. So I didn't have that background that so many of you have in business. And I had to really surround myself with experts and ask them questions. But I really knew at the end of the day that I just did not want to have any liability where with anything would happen where somebody would take my house. So I decided, okay, I'm going to do an LLC because I have camera equipment, I have lights, I have audio equipment and audio cords where somebody could, if they're not taped down properly, someone could trip over an audio cord. So I didn't really want to put myself at risk. And I just found out after doing the research that, the LLC was the right thing for me to do in terms of my off-camera work. And I was just going to continue to be a sole proprietor with my on-camera work, especially because I'm a union member with SAG-AFTRA. And I just keep it separate that way. But I've been having so much fun, meeting new people and learning about different small businesses with doing these Instagram reels. So I'm loving it. Like, I truly am saying the truth when I say I love what I do.
Yeah.
But as a new business, just starting my LLC, the challenge for me is just getting the word out about what I do, networking, talking to as many people as possible, and just growing slowly, not too quickly,
I
but
love
just, yeah, scaling
I
it.
love it.
So did I
So,
answer
Tanya,
your question?
yeah, I love it. So, and what I hear from you, so what you're saying is you were already doing in the space, and you were thought, and again, you had no, I guess, no original ambitions to, hey, I want to start a business. It was just, oh, I realized I need to protect myself, kind of being risk averse here. Let's do this thing, which is an LLC, which protects me and separates me from the business. And that was the road for you, right?
Right, exactly. And it's funny because I worked for 10 years and I went freelance for 10 years just as a freelancer, worked again for the past 10, 11 years at the Machinists Union. So I knew I was going to go freelance again mid last year. So that's when I had to make the decision. Okay, how am I going to go about this? Am I just going to continue to freelance like I did in the past, which not everybody's crazy about doing, not knowing when your next paycheck is coming. But when I thought about it and the liability, I said, you know what, I'm going to try something new. I love going outside my comfort zone, trying new things. I said, why not? Let's start a business, see how it goes. It doesn't have to be forever unless I want it to be. So I just really encourage everyone to, go outside your comfort zone. I have a sticker on my, it's actually a magnet on my fridge that says, do something every day that scares you. That day when I started the LLC, I'm like, this is the thing that's going to scare me.
This is a scary day, right?
Right. And I think it's important to you if it scares you. If you get butterflies in your stomach, if you get nervous and your heart starts beating, like that means it's something important to you.
Right.
So go.
I love it. I love it. So we've got some unique stories. Jonathan shared how she was in the MBA program, so with the intent of learning more, business side of things and climbing that corporate ladder, and pivoted and realized, I got these talents. I'm going to start a business. Tanya, on the other hand, You were just really trying to protect your business and realize a business structure was the key to doing that. Now, my story is completely different also. I was just young, probably 2 or 3 years out of college, transitioning out of the film industry, going back to my roots and my degree in marketing and all of that. Applied. This is before the job market was like hot, like it still kind of is now. And I just got tired of the no's. And I said, you know what? I'm going to put the same amount of effort that I put into trying to join another person's business and to start my own. So I did that. So another thing, it was scary. I was like, okay, because, I always say, I heard someone say it a long time ago, got to kill to eat. When you're an entrepreneur, you have to kill to eat. There's no guaranteed paycheck at the end of the month. There is no, as long as I punch the clock, I'm going to get paid. Instead, you literally have to kill to eat. So every sale, every prospect you get is putting you closer toward actually getting that paycheck and keeping the business going. So it was scary, but I just dove right in head first. I had faith in it, prayed about it, and just believed and made it happen and grounded it out. So that was my why. So, and it probably isn't as sexy as maybe some other why. Mine was, I'm tired of hearing no. I got to figure something else out, right? And that was me, and I just went head first. And then the second piece of it was, well, why, marketing and web design? Well, because I had been doing it kind of freelancing here and there, and it was a talent of mine. So it was one of those things where I was like, well, if I'm going to start a business, let me start something that I feel that I can do, right? I have a talent there and really build upon that. So that was my journey. So just fed up with the job market and just leaning on what talents I already had when I came to deciding what business I was going to start.
So it's like you greenlit yourself, you were
There you
tired
go.
of hearing no,
There you go.
and you said yes to yourself.
There you go. I gave myself a chance.
Give yourself a job. Make yourself the CEO.
There you go. And that was it. No, I love that. See, do you have anything? I thought we had something in the chat there. So how has the DC area contributed to business success for both of you?
I think from a film, television, video production standpoint, we live in a unique area, because we have government here along with corporate and nonprofit. A lot of headquarters are here, not just for corporations and nonprofits, but for even the labor unions that I've worked for in the past have headquarters here. The Machinists Union, as you said, is right in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, and DC and the surrounding area. There are lots of headquarters here. So I think it helps. It's a great place to be. I first moved here in 2004. And also to be in what we used to call in New York City, New Jersey, Connecticut, a tri-state area. We're in a tri-state area here as well, because we have DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and we're not far from Delaware. We're not far from Pennsylvania, West Virginia. I lived in Columbus, Ohio for years. We're only 6.5 hours from Columbus. So I think it's a very diverse area, and diverse not just in people, but diverse in the industries that we had here. And I can, like, for me personally, my background in so many different areas, because we shoot commercials here, we shoot corporate videos, training videos, films. We had television shows that come here and shoot. We had The Wire years ago, House of Cards. Last year we had Lioness was shooting here with Zoe Saldana. We had Natalie Portman was here shooting for Lady in the Lake. We had the Rustin movie about Bayard Rustin last year was shot here. So from my standpoint, I think it's a great place to be, not just for on camera, but for off camera, because it creates so many jobs when so many of these productions come to our area, and they need help, they need vendors. And it's a boom to this area. Because it's not just actors that are needed or people to be on crew, but caterers are needed for a lot of the crews. There are costume designers that are needed. So it's really a boom to the local economy. So I thought it was a great place for me. And I loved the fact that my LLC, just to start it out, was only $99 in DC. The hard lesson that I learned was I just wanted to change a few words in my description. Mm-hmm. Nobody told me that change was going to cost me $200. Cost me twice as much as what it was for the original filing fee for the LLC.
There you go. They got you. Yeah, that's one of those. Lesson learned. Lesson learned. And I'll tell you what's interesting. I had no idea that there was that much production in film and TV in DC. So that's news to me. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And I know, Tanya, you can speak more on this, but even my time in the industry, she's right. There are lots of businesses that support behind the scenes, from catering to props to state. So if anyone is looking for a business idea and if production is that prominent in DC, there's one. Look at what can you offer the production industry or film industry on the behind the scenes. That's interesting. Good to know.
Logistics, drivers, there's so
Yeah,
many things, you know.
it's amazing. Locations. What about you, Jonathan? How has DC impacted your success as a business owner?
Yeah, similar. I came to the United States in 1999. Maryland is where I've always lived. So I guess there's a little bias in there because for the most part, this is what most of America is kind of like in my own experience. So what I will say is the federal government, like Tanya mentioned earlier, right? So we have the lowest unemployment. When I was in banking, capital formation is one thing that I really focus on earlier on. That's one thing I do also in my consulting. But one thing what I will say, when I started, wanted to go in and bid contracts with the government, just like anybody else. And I looked at SDAT, right? State of Maryland, that's the website Maryland uses. It has changed, I don't know if it's still that, but SDAT at least is one thing you can look at a lot of filings. So when I look at that, there's so many businesses that need my service. I had to drop and say, why am I going to go after the government when all of them that are going after the government need my service to support them? Because pretty much that's one of the things that I was doing in there. So at least my answer is twofold, but I will say government contractors, right? The fact that the government contractors are around here. So I end up getting to serve those, spend a lot of time doing that. Another thing also with this DC area, also lots of airport, international, right? And being that person that is foreign, I was able to also do a lot of international consulting where I can do online or I can also fly. So it make it very, very easy as well. Academia as well. We have a lot of the great universities in here, a lot of schools, whether it's HBCU, PWIs, they're all accessible. So for me, this being the nation's capital, give that accessibility for me to do different things all within one umbrella, from a capital formation, academia, and now I am a National Science Foundation instructor under the University of Maryland. Again, that's also the federal government. So for me, that's all contributed to the success and thriving of my venture.
Awesome. That's interesting. And that's all news to me now. And I'm actually learning from you both as a person who's actually new to the DC metro area. So that question was probably, I might have dropped that question in there for myself. So good to know. Good to know. Now, what advice would you give someone just starting out or just starting their own business?
Okay, I can go on that. So one thing I will say, the first thing is don't do it because everybody else is doing it, right? You're going to get tired of it very, very quickly, right? So whatever you're doing, I think I heard you mention that, Derek, and I think Tanya mentioned it as well. We're all getting in for some kind of passion that we have that is driving us towards that, right? That is one aspect of it, right? But also figure out the business model aspect of it. Yeah, the passion is there. We wake up every day that get us going, but we also want to get it sustainable, right? On a business model perspective. Most of the time that I spent when I was in banking doing underwriting, I'm sorry I had to get back to this a lot, is we give out capital, cash flow for startups based on their business plans, right? You come up with that business plans, you give projections. But I would say right now that is changing a lot. Nothing wrong with still you're going to get a loan. I know as MBAs, we learn a lot about that, right? Debt financing or equity financing. Nothing said one is better than the other, but as most startups, right? If you can go a lot and do a lot of pitching, look for a lot of accelerator programs, right? Your passion, look for a lot of accelerator programs that teaches business model and getting that targeted targeted market that you can reach to. And before you even go and pitch to get equity, there's a lot of non-diluted funding you can get by going through different accelerator, understanding, get grants, funding. I think Coletta was sharing something earlier on as well. Just get exposed to that. Before doing my MBA or while I was in the banking, most of the population I deal with, were not aware of that kind of thing. And also there wasn't a lot of money out there, I think, at least at that time. And we do know us as Black people, maybe the number has changed as much, but about less than 2% of the capital get raised by a lot of, Black or minority people. So I will say to kind of like venture out and look for most of those opportunities, because right now there's a lot of money that's been put in there, and be able to get a good business model and raise capital that will not put a lot of dent into your ownership, your equity, or a loan that will come to a point that will be hard to pay.
Love it. Lots of knowledge there, especially on the capital, raising capital piece, which I think, again, like you said, lots of a lack of education on that piece. I'm learning a lot, even myself, still, on the importance of capital and how to best manage that piece. What about you, Tanya?
I say talk to people who are doing what you want to do. When I said I was surrounding myself with experts, I was talking to people who did live in Virginia or lived in DC or lived in Maryland, and asked them, the same things we're talking about here. When did they start their business? How did they do it? I don't have a brick and mortar, so I wanted to make sure that I had an address that was away from my home, just for like security reasons also. So I tried to do my own research. I also think it's very important in terms of self-care, like make sure you don't forget to take care of yourself. There are days where I have to take deep breaths, and I remind myself, deep breaths, Tanya, and most important, I'd say, is, not to give up when you have those slow years, or you have a bad day. You could have a few bad days in a row. Just remember why you started your business in the first place, or why you wanted to start your business in the first place. And don't give up, because, there's that saying, this too shall pass, things can turn around in a night, and again, I'm not just talking about finances. I'm just talking about the leads that you get, all of those seeds that you plant. It may have been last year that you planted them, or a few months ago. You'll get a phone call or two from people. And a lot of times it happens all at once. It could be quiet for like an entire month, and then you may have 3 or 4 people calling you in one day saying, hey, let's collaborate, let's meet and talk about how we can collaborate. And I love collaboration, because we each bring our own strengths to different projects.
Absolutely. And you're right. I've seen that countless times. I don't know what it is. I don't know what force is happening out here, but I've seen where just dormant, silence, nothing, desert, and then call after call after call after call. I mean, like, and I'll land 3 deals in one day, or 5 deals. I'm like, I went 5 weeks with nothing, and then one day I get 5. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know, things happen in numbers, they say. So right. You're right.
And some people may call for a possible collaboration where you may not have exactly what they need, but somebody else who does. So I think it's wonderful when we help others and we give referrals to other businesses that may be similar to ours, but they just have that, that different service that the client needs.
Agreed. I love what you both said. I agree. I think the big thing from both of what you said was, one, why. Establish your why. Why am I doing this? And always remember that that's always your root. And that's something I do a lot for myself. And then the other piece was really understanding capital, like Jonathan said, and using that to your advantage and using it smartly. And I agree. I mean, you both took it out of my head. I agree with you both on that piece. The other piece, which is probably a common one that a lot of people probably don't talk as much about, but how do you deal with that fear or that doubt as an entrepreneur? Or even some people might call it imposter syndrome sometimes.
Okay. This is what I will say. I think the biggest fear, I'm not saying it's gone, but at least when you gave up, at least for me, when I gave up, not having a paycheck every 2 weeks, right? That comfort, everything that comes with that, right? Because as much as being in sales, you don't make it, I mean, you still have your job, right? But to walk away and start a consulting work knowing that you just don't have a check right now is just handshakes. For me, I think that has been the biggest fear that I have taken. I pray there's not going to be another craziest one to say, but at least that has been, once you pass that, everything else comes with as you learn along with with the strategy you work with. Tanya mentioned something about collaboration. I would, as a small business, I cannot say that, hard enough or good enough or, add to what she said. That's one of the way to me, I can also mitigate, right, the fear that I may have, right? That collaboration of, partnering up with someone who doesn't have that. Like less than a year into my role, I went abroad. This opportunity came up. Half of the skills that I don't have, right? But I started the conversation. Came back here and recruit the team that helped. It was not, I learned that, if I didn't take that fear or that faith, some of the things that I learned might not have been those experiences that I have. There's some good ones that I learned. There's some bad ones that I learned. Maybe I could share those later in the lessons learned. But yeah, I say once you take that big leap of faith and exit an organization and start your own, I don't know if I'll have that biggest again. But again, talk to people. Maybe people like us that are extrovert, that comes very easy for us. Not as easy with people who might be introverted, but talk to people and learn. And I think, again, Tanya said this before, people who are doing what you're doing, that's another way of mitigating fear there. So that's some of the few things I have about fear.
No, I love that. I love what you said about collaborating and overcoming that fear, especially when those deals come where it's like, here's an opportunity, but I don't know how to do it. And I learned that quickly. Collaborate, find someone that can do it and create a team. And when I do that, I find myself more confident and less fearful when I'm going out to the market and selling the agency. So I love that.
Yeah, and be very transparent about it too, because you don't know whose liability you're bringing in. Just every thought of the process, let the folks you're dealing with understand that, because people know that the power of capitalism is collaboration. We all use iPhones. Well, most of us do. iPhone is just not built 100% everything by Apple, right? But that's not what it looks like, right? Yeah. So there's some backs in collaboration, but just be transparent in the process to not get out. Yeah.
I love that. What about you, Tanya? How do you overcome that fear and doubt?
I use a lot of external and internal. So I have tried meditation. I really love a lot. If you had asked me 20 years ago if I'd be meditating, I probably wouldn't have even dreamed of it. Right. I love yoga. I don't do it as much as I used to, but that has been really calming. But I think what's most important is the self-talk. When you first feel that fear or that doubt, not listening to that little voice in your head that's saying, oh, I don't know if I can do this, or I don't know if I want to do this, or I don't know if I want to go through this, like ignoring that voice and listening to the part of you that says, you know what, I can do this. I was once on a shoot where I was doing a stand-up and talking to the camera. I did it like 2 or 3 times and I just kept messing it up. And I said out loud in front of everybody, all right, I can do this. And I happened to be at Pax River at the Naval Air Station. And this officer was standing there waiting to be interviewed. And he said, you will do this. And it was a military thing, right? And I said, you're right. I shouldn't just say I can do this. I'm going to say I will do this. And you know what? I said that out loud and I nailed the next stand-up. It worked. So I think self-talk is so important. You have to tell yourself that it's possible. Tell yourself that you have done successful things in the past and that you can do this too, and you will do it. And it may not be perfect. I don't think we should strive for perfection. I think we should strive for, putting our best foot forward, doing the best that we can do to the best of our ability and at least trying to do it. Say yes. There's that book, The Year of the Yes. Why can't every day be a day of the yes? Why can't every year be a year of the yes? So I think self-talk is so important, and just get out of the habit of like saying that I can't and saying like, okay, how can I help with this project? How can I succeed at doing this? Because there are ways of doing it. It may take us a little bit longer than some other people to do it. We may do it in a different way, but we can do it. And we will do it.
There you go. We will do it. That's very valuable.
We will do it.
That is very valuable. And I could say similar, definitely self-talk. For me, I reflect a lot on past success. If I can remind myself of how you succeeded in the past, this worked, this happened, I can typically use that and apply that to what's coming up in the future. That helps me a lot. Definitely the self-talk and kind of overcoming the negative talk, right? Kind of stepping in when that happens. Then, of course, when I really feel like, well, can I do it? The collaboration piece. So bringing it all together. But definitely for me, it's really focusing on, well, what have you done in the past? Where have you succeeded? And how can we push that forward? I love that. What else do I want to ask you, wonderful panelists here? What's have been some of your biggest learning experiences in running the business?
I didn't realize how the costs would be. Like I said about the fees, in DC in particular, there is a fee for everything. And even though I was really attracted to that $99 filing fee, I had no idea, that I had to get a registered agent. I had no idea that I could be the registered agent, which is what I did to save money. I got around that one. I was like,
Yeah, wasn't that the same? Yep.
they give you a list of companies, and it's like, I don't know these companies that are online in the process. So I think that it was a learning experience for me to realize how much the costs were for everything that I wanted to do to protect myself and protect my privacy, by getting my, my mailbox, having an address for all of my, my mail to go for business, by getting my business checking account. Everything that I had to set up. Probably a business student or a recent graduate is aware of all of that, but I wasn't, so
I'll pitch in. I wasn't either.
yeah,
You
that
would have
was
been a good client of mine.
okay. Well, there was that learning
You know who to
curve.
call.
Yep, you could have helped us with that learning curve.
Awesome.
Sorry, Derek. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what have been some of your biggest learning experiences?
Oh, learning.
in your
Okay.
business?
Oh my goodness. Have we stopped learning yet?
Right.
So I think for me, when I was in the corporate, and this is not a negative, it's just life experience, right? Everybody's like, man, you are so good. You need to run your own business. Man, you need to queen. All those truck, they're not gonna come with you when you go alone. Yes, that's one big thing I learned. People who will come because you work at a institution that has a brand recognition, name recognition. You show up, right? And they show up, and they will tell you, "Oh yeah, if you do this, I'm a good business." Some of them were saying it because, to me, again, what I said, my purpose driven to help individuals fulfill the best they could. So I went out on my way, really, to support people, relationship driven, not because of everything fill the bucket of making that it, right? But through that journey also here, oh my goodness, you got to run your own business. So not everybody's going to come with you. Very, very few will. And even someone you reach out, they're not necessarily going to be there. So for me, that was a learning thing, but that's just in life, right? But if you're going for that business, just be ready for disappointments, for no's. Angels will show up still at different places where you don't expect them, because this wall, I'm still a believer that there are more good people than bad. So don't let the bad discourage you, but you're going to run in as soon as you start. There's a lady that I'll never forget. She was a client of mine. Even up till today, she helped me so much because she also was in the federal government, contractor. She sold me SAM, so many things that I didn't know half of. She showed me. Yes, I'm so grateful for her up till today. And she's always grateful to me for supporting her, getting capital for her business. She came along, but very few. It's going to get very lonely, but don't get discouraged.
I love that. And go ahead, Tanya.
Yeah, and I was going to say, if there's something that you're not familiar with, don't be afraid to learn it, because I'm a firm believer that if someone gives you the chance to learn something, if they show you how to do it, if they train you properly and they give you ample opportunity to practice, I feel like you can do anything.
I love it. Agreed. And that kind of leads me into what I was going to say. One of the biggest learning experience for me had been relationships. I had no idea how important those relationships are in growing a business. Like, I'll look back now because I keep track of everything in all deals, and I can see where some of the biggest deals or some of the greatest bulk of referrals came from that just one relationship that probably came from I don't know, I might have met a person in a grocery store in some way, somehow, or at a co-working office I had in Atlanta. Just that one beginning point transpired into so many other things, whether it was mentorship in business or even referrals, a referral partner, or just a person who just loved us so much that they referred us to everyone they knew. So the relationships and valuing those and seeking out relationships. I heard it one time, somebody said, try to go into rooms where you're not the smartest person. So I do that a lot now because I've learned that in doing that, I learn more in regards to being a better business owner and building those relationships. So that's one of the biggest things for me is relationships, and going into places where I can nurture and create those valuable relationships. Yeah.
And I think being in an organization like this, where you can network, helps to build those relationships. And then you can grow, because people will refer you to others. So I think this is great that this organization exists and it has a DC chapter, because it means more than you realize.
Yeah. I found out about it from actually an old high school guidance counselor. I said, hey, I'm moving to the DC area. Any suggestions? And, just anything, just tell me. She's like, well, join I see you got an MBA, join the DC Black MBA chapter. I looked it up. I said, oh, no brainer. That day I signed up because, again, I said relationships. And just good people is enough for me, and everything else will transpire. So I joined it, right? I love the relationship piece of it. This is a great organization. Awesome. We'll end on my last question for you all before we open it up to all the audience. Is what is your favorite part of being an entrepreneur?
Being the boss.
Being the boss. There we go.
Being the boss and not subject to. So 5 years actually when I was doing my work and also being an adjunct, I dictated everything that I did, right? Okay. So as of last year, I joined University of Maryland as full-timer. So I'm still juggling that, and I have to wake up and be like, oh God, I'm a boss, right? Learn how to, at least hold my mouth and things like that. But really that flexibility, and, I'm a mother of 3 sons, so that has really been very helpful the past, 5 years to be able to do that. So flexibility is very helpful, and going to places that align with what I wanted to do. And for me, what having a consultant the last 5 years have done for me is being able to do what I wanted to do ethically, value way, and without burning any bridges. No one restricted me where I have to go. Told me where I didn't have to go. And I was able to create so many other things within there and start so many other things, training from the origin country where I came from, the Gambia, West Africa. I was able to do a whole lot in there and also here. And that's been a very, very fulfilling for me personally as an individual. Spending 24 years in America, the last 16 years before doing my business, I probably visited 2 or 3 times. Post my organization, I was visiting at some point twice a year. So that was very helpful, and be able to build those bridges also from there. So that has been very fulfilling for me, able to do that as having my own business.
Love that. What about you, Tanya?
I love not having to answer to anybody but myself and my clients. That's one thing. And when you're working for someone else, whoever gives you your paycheck is the boss. You have to do it the way they want it done, even though you may have a better way of doing it. And you share that with them and they may not, agree with it. So I love the fact that I get to choose my own projects, make my own schedule, travel if I want to travel, to a different region. Just the fact that I can make my own choices, be my own boss, means the world. It's night and day from working 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. If I want to work twice a week, I can work twice a week. If I want to work on a project where I am working 5 days in a week, I don't have to work the next week. That's great. I just think it's so fulfilling.
I hit 3 words and they all start with F: fulfilling, freedom, and flexibility.
Yes.
That's the theme. That's what it is. Okay. I love it. And that's what it is for me also. I didn't think about it until you said it, Tanya. The fulfilling piece, I think, is kind of like, bam, that was a cherry on top. Yeah. Flexibility is a big one for me. And then freedom, Jonathan, you talked about that, just the freedom to do things your way, ethically, morally, following your passion. 3 F's.
Those are your 3 ingredients
Here we
for
go.
thriving.
Flexibility, freedom, and fulfilling. Awesome. I love it. Thanks a lot for sharing your expertise with myself and the audience. I definitely want to open the floor up. If we have any questions from the audience, feel free to post those in the chat or unmute and just come on and ask a question if you have any.
Hi there. I see some questions in the chat right now. One of which that I noticed I don't think was answered is, where's your business based? Decent in the DC, Maryland, or Virginia area?
I'm DC.
Okay.
So,
sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you wanted me to answer as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh yeah, these days I don't even know if location matters for me, but I'm registered in the state of Maryland. But God bless Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I always say Zoom is. I got a first class Zoom ticket, and I can be anywhere. So
That's
Okay.
right.
Yeah,
Collaborate with anybody anywhere, you know.
Okay.
I love it. And so Olam, we're actually based headquartered in Atlanta, but of course, spreading our region, our reach here in the DC area.
Okay, so the next question, I saw that what, made you establish a business, and I think we did answer that question. What's the difference in selecting the DC, Maryland, or Virginia? I'm not sure if that even, since Zoom has really taken over, or do you all feel there is a difference? There has been a difference in you all selecting either one of the states.
I considered Virginia because I live right on the border with DC and Maryland. I mean, I considered Maryland because I live on the border with DC and Maryland. I really wasn't interested in Virginia just because I'm not that close. It's further away in terms of being based there. But I like the fact that in this area, we could work in all 3. I know there are some differences with the laws. I didn't research too much about that, but I wanted to be based where I could get to the government easily if I needed to file something, or, I wanted my business address to be in DC, so it would be close to me at home. So that it was really location for me. And, this is where I live. I wanted to have my business here too.
For me too, same. Lived in Maryland, worked in Maryland, so I'm very, very familiar with the system of how businesses are filed. So that was much easier for me. But one thing I will say, I think what Tanya said brought that to me from restriction perspective. Sometimes if I have to do some work for small business, center in Virginia, they have, because my business is MBE, have all those designations. But sometimes they want preference for people in the state of Virginia. And that's not because I kind of went in there to actively sort to do those kind of offer those services there. It's people that I know who reach out to me and said, can you help do some training, which I was able to collaborate with other people. But from a sustainability perspective, I wasn't able to sustain that on that end because they also want to give access to the businesses that are paying taxes in their own state. So just from a location standpoint, I wanted to share that.
Awesome. And I, of course, again, like we're based in Atlanta, so what I will throw out there, and Jonathan, you probably could delve more into this than I can, but for folks that are on the fence deciding between DC, Maryland, Virginia, and if there's any reason, like you mentioned, Jonathan, maybe there's a target audience that you want to take advantage of in Virginia, or maybe there's some governmental programs. But what you can do, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you can set up foreign entities. If you register your business in Maryland and you also want to take advantage of Virginia things, you can set up a foreign entity, right? Where the business is a Virginia-based business also that could take advantage of those programs that are
foreign corporation, yes.
Foreign corporation, yeah. So awesome. Any other questions that we might have had? Let's see.
I want to post this link in the chat while people are thinking about their questions. It's called Maryland Innovation Extension. I think, Coletta, that's how you reached out to one of our University System of Maryland directors, Lindsay?
Yes.
So I'll be remiss if I don't share this, but it's to support entrepreneurship in the state of Maryland, right? I just wanted you all to explore it, even though it's partnership with universities. But if we have folks who are looking to do entrepreneurship, whether they're student, they're not student, they're in the community, tech enabled, sometimes not so tech, because the goal is to reach out as much underrepresented community to do this program, which is the ICOR. It's an accelerator program where from it, you get more targeted into your business model. Here's another option you can look into. But if you decide you live in Maryland and decide to say, maybe I'm not sure, there's entrepreneurs in residence also who you have free consultation to reach out to, an hour free of their time. They get paid by state money, funded money. At least that's a way also you can get some advice. And if they can send you to the Small Business Center, which is all over the United States of America, but at least in Maryland, University of Maryland is kind of like their home base institute, but they support everyone in the state. And I think in Virginia is George Mason University. I'm not sure with DC, might be UDC, but I'm not 100% sure.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Jonathan. It's very much awesome. So any other questions that we have? I don't see any. Shalonda, am I missing anything?
I didn't see any other questions in the chat.
Does everyone on the call have a business? Or are they sole proprietors?
I do.
Yeah. What's your business?
I actually have a bookkeeping business. It is Global Enterprises, LLC. I have that, and I also have Hicks Holdings, LLC.
Great.
I have two.
Karen, what do you do?
Well, I have a investment company where I train and teach individuals how to purchase tax liens and deeds. That's my LLC, and I have a nonprofit organization called Ray's Place, which is a transitional house in Southeast DC for children who age out of foster care.
I love it.
Wow.
So many different businesses. I love this, Derek.
Amazing. This is a great organization. I told you guys. I saw it. I signed up, man. I didn't look back. Awesome. Well, if we don't have any other questions, I definitely want to thank everyone for coming out and participating. This was a great conversation. Thank you to our panelists, Ms. Tanya Hutchins and Jonathan Cisse. Amazing, two amazing women who are doing amazing things in the business community in the DMV area. Thank you for your time. I learned so much just here moderating. So this is wonderful. And I can't wait to connect with you both off camera. We'll definitely stay in touch. If anyone else has questions, of course, you can reach out to us. You can definitely contact Carletta or.
Excuse me, Derek. I want to just close out really before you wrap up. First of all, thank you so much for leading the conversation. It was definitely robust and great information, ladies. To Tanya and Ms. Cisse, thank you again for being here. Wanted to just say to all those on the call that we appreciate your presence. And if you're not a member, please consider joining. You can find us at dcblackmbaa.org. We also have an event coming up next Wednesday, Breaking the Stigma on Mental Health at UDC at 6:30 p.m. We also have our next Black Brilliance series will start back in August. We're going to take, June 20th is our next panel discussion for Black Brilliance. It'll be in person. It's all about money. How you find money for your business, how you get that capital you need to grow. So we hope you come out and join us. Check the website for that information. And if you have not thought about it, please consider going to our national conference. It is in Philadelphia this year, September 12th through the 15th. It will be in DC next year. So mark your calendar, September 17th through the 21st, 2024. We're excited and looking forward to not only hosting the national conference, but making it the best ever. So again, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening.